the National Lottery. Do you still play that? I haven't. It's not on telly anymore, is it? Feels like years ago I haven't seen that thing. I remember when everyone had their syndicates and Thunderball and all of that stuff. Do you know, my dad, who's a bit of an eccentric at the best of times, at one point kept a notepad where he'd write down the lottery numbers and decided he had a system. He'd sit there at night in the back of his lorry or whatever and look at all the numbers and be like, well, that one hasn't come up in a while. I'm going to pick that one this week. And I was just like, all right, son, never mind. We never won the lottery, unfortunately. But apparently winning the lottery is more likely than getting a stolen bike back in London. Police neglect is being blamed by cycling campaigners for so few positive outcomes of theft. Let's speak now to Harry Miller, who's a former police officer. Hello there, Harry.
Yeah, hi. Nice to speak to you.
Doesn't surprise me in the slightest. As someone who's just moved out to London, I've seen it all. I'm pretty sure that if I was being, mass stabbed in the middle of the street and phoned the Met Police, they'd be like, oh, well, never mind. Certainly that's what it feels like when you're a citizen of London. And I get the impression things like bicycle theft, they couldn't be bothered. I got a nice letter from the police saying we don't investigate this anymore when someone had smashed into my car. So I can't see them going, oh, someone's nicked my bike. Oh, yeah, we're going to get on that for you. And yet when I've spoken to former Met Police officers from, the previous generation, they actually said to me that back in the day, if you're a Bobby on the beat, you could phone up your local police station and say, oh, it's Mrs. Brooks from number 52. I'm on holiday for a week. Would you mind checking on my house when you do your rounds? I mean, how far things have changed.
No, absolutely. Now, if you're Jeremy Vine, for instance, and you get your penny farthing stolen, there's a chance that the police will turn up. But if you're not Jeremy Vine and you don't ride a penny farthing and it gets nicked, which, by the way, it will, unless you do all your riding in a velodrome in your own shed in your back garden, at some point you are going to run the risk and have your bike stolen. It's not prioritised because the police don't give a damn about private property. They've basically taken the communist line that the property is theft. So if your property gets stolen, so what? It's not important. Now, there is a handy life hack that I'm going to give the listeners of TalkTV today. That if you have your precious bike stolen, what you need to do is you need to tell the police that you believe that it was stolen as part of a targeted campaign of hate against you because of your protected characteristic. That will, in fact, get the police into action. But just owning a piece of property that's stolen doesn't matter that it's cost £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, £6,000, £7,000, that it's a precious item, something that you love, something that you've saved up for, something that you rely on. They don't care. The police are prompted into action when it has got something to do with identity politics, when it's got something to do with hate crime. Then you can move them into action. It's a handy life hack. I don't like to suggest using it, but if you want your bike back and you want police attention, that is the only way. Because it's not about resources, it's about priorities. The police have no problem finding 5 police officers with guns to arrest Graham Linehan. They have no problem at all sending police officers into a house in order to look for signs of Brexiteerism and search the bookshelves for Douglas Murray books. They have no problem with any of that. They have no problem in arresting somebody because they say, oh, you look a little bit like my lesbian nan. They have no problem with that at all. It's not about resources. It's about choices and it's about priorities. The police have lost their way. They have become a political a police force. They are not interested in the things that you and I are interested in, which is staying safe, being safe and having our property protected, not stolen, and if it is stolen, found by the police and the perpetrators locked up. They're just not interested in that.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And it's like the broken windows argument of New York back in the mean old days, which is when you let a tow rag nick even a Scotch egg from the shelf of Marks and Spencer's and do nothing about it, they then become audacious. When you let people push through ticket barriers and behave in a way that is antisocial, they become audacious. audacious. And I remember, I mean, the madness of this, right? So my car was parked opposite the pub at the end of my road, and someone had clearly gone into the side of my car and smashed it. It wasn't just a little ding, you know, it wasn't like, oh, there's a scratch on my car. No, it was like caved in, the whole front of it. And I thought, well, that's bad. And so I went to see the pub and I said, you know, your CCTV camera's on this. Oh, yeah, but we can't let you look at it because GDPR, the rights of the person in the... I'm like, what, the rights of the person who's driven into my car and nicked off? And so I didn't get to do that. And, you know, after sort of negotiating as a Green King pub, so I had to go up to head office and all the rest of it. I then went into, they took ages doing anything about it. I went to the police station, said, look, there's CCTV, because the Green King were like, oh, if the police ask for the CCTV. So I go into the local police station, they go, oh, you've got to speak to the transport police. Speak to the transport police. And they're like, oh, well, we can't go after that CCTV, but if you can find it, you might want to give it to the insurance company. I was just like, what is this? This is madness. Anyway, the woman at the pub looked at the footage, saw an Uber driver come down my road, probably completely unable to drive, probably bought his driving licence for 2 pence back in Somalia, smashed into my car, gets out the vehicle, looks and just goes, oh, well, and drives off. So the footage is there. And nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody wanted to do anything about it. I end up paying 800 quid excess. And that little tow rag who gets away with it is just carrying on, probably driving on our roads illegally, basically in the black market. And it infuriates me.
And rightly, and it should infuriate you. What we've actually done, what the police have done, they've privatised part of themselves. They've handed the responsibility for private goods to the insurance market. That's what they've done. They're not interested. Oh, here's a crime number, give it to your insurance company. Let them sort it out. Well, this is absolute cowardice. It's a neglect of duty on the part of the police. And it shows that they do not understand what is important to the common man and woman of the United Kingdom. We care about our property.
But it's worse than that, actually, isn't it? Because not only have they privatised a certain amount and said, oh, here you go, delegate that to insurance companies, seemingly they seem to act on behalf of ne'er-do-wells as their bother boys. Because if someone phoned me up and said, I am triggered by a tweet that I saw online back in April, I feel unsafe, I'd be like, grow up, I ain't doing your dirty bullying for you, because I would know that that person was being vindictive. The last thing I would do, as somebody who's supposed to be a public servant paid for by the taxpayer, is on behalf of somebody who wants to destroy someone else's life, then go and turn up at their doorstep in a uniform. To me, the police are allowing themselves willfully to be used, exploited by people who, frankly, are bullies.
No, I absolutely agree. And this is a choice that has been made by the College of Policing. Repeated Home Secretaries have allowed it to happen on their watches, including Tory ones, and Chief Constables. They need to get a grip. They need to understand why we have the boys and women in blue. They need to understand Dixon of Dock Green. They need to understand something of our great British history, where we used to have a police force which was the envy of the world. No longer. We are now the absolute laughingstock. And worse than that, the police force have now become an active danger to normal British people. They are the enemy, in many cases, of British people, not their friend and their ally. And that is a terrible state of affairs to be in.
Oh, Harry, I was just feeling really happy today, and there you are. I've woken up again and realised we're still in dystopian Britain. But I could, a lot of what you said, so strident, so cut through, and so correct. Thank you ever so much. Harry Miller there, former police officer, telling it like it is. It is true, though. If someone phones up and thinks, I want to destroy someone's life by dobbing them into the police, and then the police go and do their dirty bidding, what on earth is going on there? I mean, that is really alarming, but that is what is taking place. When people get triggered by a tweet, it's because they are the vindictive one. They are the nasty one, and the police should have nothing to do with them.